Ark of the Covenant was buried inside of a chamber underneath the ground, above which were cross holes. Specifically, he believed the cross hole of Jesus Christ, and that blood dripped down those cracks when the spear was driven into Jesus' side and dripped. Got little blood right there on the edge of my Ark of the Covenant. That blood dripped down those crevices and dripped onto the mercy seat, completing the sacrifice. In this full-length film, we go through, and actually the guides there at the Garden Tomb, before I go discover, not me, I would like to credit that to Lance Smith and also guitarist and rock and roller Rick Derringer. It was actually the Lord that led them over to the cross holes, and Lance Smith knew more about them than I did at that time, and I believe the Lord put him there. But in any case, I had the footage of the cross holes that were called a conspiracy, and you will see them in this film. But I wanted to lay in your hands, I thought it was important, one other prophecy that I thought should go in here, one that I've used quite a bit, that would be appropriate for this film and for this time. Now, this brings us to some interesting prophecies, possibly, about the Ark of the Covenant that have actually been buried in scriptures that I've commonly used and you've probably commonly heard, but not heard them in quite this way. So following the first temple time period, you have the second temple time period. Now, the second temple time period, so the Babylonians had taken over Israel, and they were put into what's known as Babylonian captivity. This is the time frame where you get the very powerful book of Daniel. Now, one of the most powerful prophecies, probably in your entire Bible, but one of the most powerful prophecies that I've used repeatedly in my videos, and I found that part fascinating as well, comes from Daniel 9:25. And this was written during the time of the Babylonian captivity, that the angel, and this would specifically be Gabriel, he always pops up with messages concerning the Messiah and around the time that the Messiah or the Mashiach arrives. And in this prophecy coming out of Daniel 9:25, Daniel is going to specify 70 weeks of years. And the first 69 of these are a long prophecy that are going to tell you when the Messiah will arrive. And that this will be exactly, if we do the math on it, is going to add up to 17,880 days to the day when Jesus would arrive and actually be taken and literally crucified. It's a stunning prophecy. This 69 weeks of years, this will come to exactly 17,880 days. Now, this will begin at the decree of Artaxerxes Longimanus, the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. Now, Daniel served under two different empires. So Daniel served first under the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar, and then when King Cyrus, who is seen on this coin, this temple half shekel, this is called a third temple coin from Israel. Many compare King Cyrus, who's seen on this coin, to Donald Trump, which has got the third temple on the back. This is seen right there. And then on the front, Israel, or certain sects of Israel, interested in the building of the third temple, which I believe is coming, have printed Donald Trump's face next to Cyrus's face. Now, to be very clear about this, King Cyrus back here did not build the second temple. He's what made the second temple possible. This is called a Cyrus cylinder in my hand. This is a replica of a Cyrus cylinder. He said things very similar to this man, Donald Trump. Their dilapidated dwellings are restored. He largely took victory by improving the financial systems. People wanted Cyrus to win and take victory. He improved the common man's life, as is covered on this Cyrus cylinder. The other thing he did was he ended the Babylonian captivity during the time of Daniel, so that the Hebrews could go back home to Israel and rebuild their temple. This happened, this decree of Artaxerxes Longimanus, which is specified in the text, occurred in history on March 14th of 445 BC. Exactly 17,880 days later, to the day, would be the triumphal entry of Jesus Christ. So in many times the people wanted to declare Jesus out as king, but it says that Jesus would vanish into the crowd this way or that way, or he would disappear, however you want to interpret that, except for one specific day. The day that Daniel had given the math for, or that the angel that Daniel recorded had told him the math for, roughly 500 years in advance. That would be the day that we now today call Palm Sunday, where they would throw down their palm leaves and they would declare him out as king, fulfilling Zechariah 9:9. Behold, the king comes on the back of a foul donkey.
So the second one is really interesting. This is really, really interesting. It's Daniel 9:24 and 25. Okay, so he says, I'll just read it here so that way we're kind of fresh on it. So 70 weeks is determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city.
I'd like to read you the actual text of this from the book of Daniel, a passage that I know very well and have used for a long time in my videos. Daniel 9:25. Know and understand this, that from the time that the word goes forth, that's the decree of Artaxerxes Longimanus to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, or the temple, until the Mashiach, the Messiah, the Prince comes, there shall be 70 weeks, shall be 69 weeks of years. What the math for this is going to come to, 17,880 days to the day, until the Mashiach comes. That's the day that Daniel gave the math for, the day that he rode the donkey through the front gate of Jerusalem. Even in troublesome times, they were indeed troublesome times. But I'd like to skip backwards one passage.
In this verse, he says 70 weeks is determined upon thy people and thy holy city. So he's clearly referencing physical here. So what we're about ready to read is not metaphorical, it's not heaven. It has to happen. All has to happen within the holy city. He says, to finish transgressions, to make a sin of end, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring an everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and the very last thing he says is to anoint the most holy.
Here we are at Daniel 9:24. Now watch this. 77s, because that last seventh week has not been completed yet. That is the third temple week. That is the week where the third temple will be in place. A mesmerizing temple, as is described quite possibly in the book of Ezekiel. I'm going to hit pause on that. There's a lot of mystery surrounding the time period of the third temple. Verse 24, that's a number of high authority. 77s are decreed for your people, and your holy city. Your holy city, that would be Jerusalem. To put an end to sin. Now, these are all things that everyone agrees that Jesus Christ did. To put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Now, watch this. To seal up the vision and prophecy, and to do what? And I had never noticed this before. This either happened at the death and crucifixion of Jesus Christ, or it's something later to happen. And to do what? Anoint the most holy place. That would have to be the item within the Holy of Holies. The most holy place would be anointing, just like you would do with the lamb or the goat lamb's blood, the sins of atonement. So you would sacrifice, so you would go into the Ark of the Covenant once a year, and you would anoint the Ark of the Covenant with the blood for the sins of atonement for all Israel, and to anoint the most holy place. So as Jesus' blood at that cross, did it drip down and anoint that most holy place.
Okay, so when it says in Daniel 9:24 and 25 that Christ will anoint the most holy, it says to anoint the most holy more specifically. He's talking about Christ anointing the Ark of the Covenant. And I say to him, I say, you tell me, what is a greater anointing? Oil or the blood of the Messiah?
Yeah.
And they always answer every time they say the blood of the Messiah. And I was like, Daniel 9:24 and 25 says that Christ would spill his blood onto the most holy, which is the Ark of the Covenant.
That's really something. That's actually a masterpiece, Kevin.
Yeah.
The Lord really puts you up to this.
I I'm Trey Smith of God in a Nutshell. I want to thank you for watching this shorter edition, this shorter presentation of Under Golgotha. I hope very much that you enjoyed it, as with all of our films, and I hope you might consider going over and watching the full-length version of this